always, thank you. HODL, thanks for stopping by, Jeff. I appreciate it. Here in a minute.
All right, going live. I want to thank DNI for an amazing show as always. Really appreciate everything that he brings to the table, everything that he talks about. It's really makes you think, as we get into this space, more and more thinking. So I think that's really important, to make sure that we're, all really continuously learning. So, I'm getting ready to type my comment, and what's sometimes forget that I'm live here on the video. So anyhow, XRP minute, what's up? First in. Good job, Chip. Thanks for jumping in there. Rabbit Hole Research 808. What's happening? Carolina. Ahmed Ali. Good to see you guys on here. Mama Lacey, Bobby Wheeler, Dan. What's going on, everybody? Got a bunch of stuff to cover tonight. So I'm just going to give everybody a minute to jump in and reflect on the that XRP is currently sitting at. You know what? Today has been a phenomenal day. I haven't looked. I haven't really paid attention to any of my digital asset holdings in a while. Hasn't really been obviously relevant when the market's down. And now I started pulling it up again, and there's some things that I got in a little bit higher than I would have liked to. But overall, it's really amazing. Now we're seeing, Ethereum now at $260. You've got Bitcoin creeping up to 8,300. XRP at 0.46. It's really, really impressive. Considering here we have XRP is now, what is that? About 8.2, what is that? 8.2 billion away from an Ethereum flippening. So I think that's coming quick. I think we'll see that pretty soon. I believe that we're going to see a 0.5 in the near future and beyond. So Bitcoin Cash has been creeping up. Litecoin, it's great. So, and then look at this. I haven't even looked at Stellar. Stellar's back up close to 15 cents right now. So as things came down, I started buying up, a little here, little there. And I like diversifying into some other things, but anyhow, so DNI sent you guys over. DNI, if you're on, thank you very much. Yeah, awesome stream. Oh, there he is. Digital Nomad Investor. Hit the thumbs up on the way in. Hit the thumbs up on the way out. If anybody's new here, make sure you subscribe. And if you haven't hit that little notifier bell, apparently it works. And you'll get notified every time we launch a new video here. Thumbs up if you guys like the photo in the background. XRP the Great, good to see you here. Richter, what's up? He made you guys come. Man, DNI, you bribing people to come over to my show? All right, so let's see here. All right, we've got some good stuff. I wanted to go through something to, hang on. All right, timing out. Oh, hang on. Let me pull this up on my phone. My phone is always perfect, and I like being able to monitor the stream to make sure that, if there's any lag, I can see it live over here, lagging. All right, looks okay. So, where was I? Hang on a second. Boom, there we go. All right, Bob the Builder. Omar Kaufman. Is Omar in here? How to figure out, somehow we'll figure out how to make sure that we see Omar in DNI's stream. He brought that up again, so we'll figure it out. I know if you go into your subscribers through the web portal of YouTube, somewhere in the back end, there's a way to look and see who, I believe, who's been blocked and who isn't. So you should have a way to make that adjustment in here somewhere. So I've got to believe between all the brains in this chat, we'll be able to figure it out. All right, so check this out. I thought this was really cool because Hybrid Allen sent this over, and as you go through it, it's really a lot of good food for thought. I want to read through it because I thought it was interesting. And then he ends by recommending a video from July of 2018, which I went back and watched. It was like a 20-minute video, and it was also interesting talking about the SHA-2, SHA-2, which apparently is a protocol, I believe, that Bitcoin had been built on. It's an algorithm. It's secure hash algorithm 2, which based on definition is a set of cryptographic hash functions designed by the United States National Security Agency, or the NSA. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So let me go back here. So starting with this, he says BTC to be crashed by XRP and XLM plus whale corruption with their altcoins and exchanges. Think about that. Then he comes down here. People do not have all that much money, so they'll want a quick payback from their investment, and exchanges charge an arm and a leg for cash conversions on any altcoin or BTS itself. Maybe it's BTC. As BTC stalls, all the cheaper banker-friendly coins like XRP and XLM, corporate Coke and Pepsi, which I brought up before, Coke and Pepsi comparison, are rocketing at 12% plus a day. XLM is soaring right now. People who may have got in the BTC at 3,000 plus are going to dump like crazy, especially the whales. And where do you think their cash will go? Look for a lot of strain on Tether. BTC will crash if XRP and XLM rocket. Seriously, think about it. No one is running at Bitcoin. No one. It's a runaway train being pushed and pulled by the whales and their linked altcoins. It's a house of cards that will not only crash but burn. And so I think it's good food for thought. Wherever you stand on it, obviously, there's quite a few in the financial space that are looking at BTC as, with a potential of 200, 250, a million. It gets there. The rest of the market's going to be pulled up. But it's what Hybrid Allen brought up is really interesting. And then as we drill in and we go to this video, now the video is called "I Smell a Rat." Again, this was July 18th. Interesting theory. Definitely worthwhile listening to. Do a search. I Smell a Rat. And in it, he talks about the secure hash algorithm developed by the NSA. So I never really went through and got into that side of things. But based on his theory, is that if Bitcoin is built on that, what are the chances that Bitcoin was actually then developed by either the NSA or someone that had been in consultation with, or someone that had been with the NSA at some point. So that's interesting. David Schwartz, right? I believe David Schwartz had worked, was it with the NSA, I believe? So let's see here. Almost worked at the NSA in my former military career. Really, Caroline. All of 18 was rough when it came to cryptocurrencies. Yeah, if, you guys, if you could, tweet out the stream, that would be awesome. And then we'll get more people informed. So I think that'd be super helpful. DNI, yes, okay. Ended up working at the. Oh yeah, Omar. Ended up working at the Pentagon. That's great. Carolina, what years were you at the Pentagon? David's interview by CKJ. I was getting ready to watch it, got sidetracked this evening, and now I got to go back. I had it on, and then I got sidetracked. I need to go back and watch that. Schwartz realized his mistake with Bitcoin, fixed it with XRP. It does seem that way, doesn't it? Because everything that you would want out of a digital asset was then put into XRP. I think that's pretty cool. Hey, what do you guys think of the, I said it before, but what do you guys think of this image behind me? The overlay. Sometimes I like messing around with overlays. All right, so yeah, so I think that it's amazing. You know, the fact that CKJ is over a consensus, I think is fantastic. Hey, Apt Up, DNI sent you over. Glad to see you over here. During the Monica Lewinsky scandal, okay. Interesting times then. Very interesting times. Bob the Builder, awesome. So, CKJ sent you over here. Chip. I feel like I'm drinking alone over here. I had to pour a little scotch. So as I was kind of going through all of this, you know, Crypto Bird Dog actually posted another article, and this is really where, you know, my entire thought process kind of drifted once I saw what she had posted up there, and it talked about Congressman Emmer introducing a tax bill that is focused on crypto hard forks. So obviously, Tom Emmer has done and co-sponsored numerous bills with Warren Davidson, Darren Soto. There's a lot of common names that end up working together, that have worked together. Tom Emmer had 3 bills that were passed through, or 2 bills passed through Congress. I believe they were Emmers back in January. Now they just sit out there at the Senate level. We haven't seen any movement on them yet. But this is really important, especially considering the fact when Chip and I were talking the other night about TTA, the fact that that Maxine Waters wants to see all the tax-related items of TTA removed from it in order to pass it through committee. Now, so while this conversation is going on, and this goes back to April, so you have to believe there's a lot of these conversations that are ongoing. Those that are in support of digital assets are stacking up bills that they're going to be presenting. And again, we saw, you know, the stages of the bills. You know, so some of them are going to go through. Some of them aren't going to go through. Some of them, like the Token Taxonomy Act, which is really, you know, offering some really major changes in the space, are going to be chopped up a little bit in order to get them through. But as they get chopped up, we're going to see other smaller bills being proposed right behind them. And Congressman Emmer's bill that he's planning to reintroduce is going to focus specifically on this space. So what's interesting, and I'm going to pull up the press release that they had, and we're going to go through each of the individual representatives that actually signed off on this letter to a commissioner at the IRS. It was Commissioner Reddick. But what's and this is really a point that, you know, has to be addressed, and the reason why, you know, we have really become so passionate about how we can, as a grassroots initiative, as a community, you know, how we can have an impact on those in Congress, because those in Congress, their thought process is still based on preconceived or, you know, misconceived notions of reality. So it's based on misinformation that has been handed down over the years, that digital assets are still tied up in issues like Mt. Gox and Silk Road, etc., looking to circumvent, you know, the legal aspect of things. Looking, for instance, well, they haven't really brought this up, but you can utilize it as an example. A nation like Iran that had anticipated or thought about utilizing digital assets to circumvent any embargoes, trade embargoes that are placed on their country, or Venezuela that tried to launch a petro. That's kind of going to the extreme, but that's the bad publicity. That's the negative of it. So when bad things are done, we realize very quickly that it doesn't succeed, and especially in this space, it becomes very, very visible. Everything is very transparent. And so what's important about our initiative, that we're hoping to really gather more and more people together. We started with that initial video, what was that, about a month ago, I believe. And we got that out to Warren Davidson's office, and that went right to their comm director. And the goal there was for them to use that to pass through committee. So I know they still have it. I know they shared it with a number of individuals, which is great. Now the intent here is to continue our education, because how can these bills get passed if we still have congressional representatives that have these preconceived notions based on misinformation, that and it's really a an alternate reality at this point, but they still believe it. So it's really important now on the other side of the coin. We have individuals like Warren Davidson, Darren Soto, Tom Emmer, and many others that are doing everything they can to push through regulatory clarity when it comes to the digital asset space. So I think we have a lot of props and kudos for Tom Emmer in this tax initiative that he's trying to pass through. Now, it was brought up in consensus. So Tom Emmer was on a panel discussion at consensus. So we're beginning to see that the congressional representatives are taking this extremely seriously. And these are the individuals that we want to be able to reach out to. We want to be able to help them in every way possible. So now let's look here. So let me hang on. Let me share this, because I think this would be important. Before I do that, let me just scroll up, see some comments here. I don't want to give the appearance that I'm talking at you. It's always best to have participation in the overall conversation here. So, Chip, you're drinking a scotch too. Awesome. Sorry, I missed that. I had to scroll back up and see that. So, the moon is definitely in order, and maybe we'll wake up tomorrow morning and XRP will be at 50 cents. Mama Lacey, 48 cents. It's already on its way to $50. That's awesome. All right, let's go down here. Iced tea and cranberry with a little vodka for Auburn Rain. All right, so Spanish Fly, how you doing? XRP, XR Pilot, good to see you on here. Glad you made it in. And this XR Pilot, is this your first time in? Or is this, no, there's two XR Pilots. And so it was interesting, Chip had commented on something and I think this is the one, you've been here before, and you had commented in our last stream, and Chip had sent out a tweet, and it ended up going to a different XR Pilot, but it was interesting. So, all right, let's see here. Omar Kaufman, I'm hearing more about global debt in the media continuously. They drip it out, just like DNI had alluded to as well. It's interesting how the media attempts to manipulate our financial markets through this drip of information the way they want it to be heard. And so I think we'll see this ramping up, and we talked about this before as well, that it then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So as we, that's something that we all want to avoid, but people listen to the media. So if the media is talking about a global debt crisis, then obviously there's something bigger happening that people have to be concerned about. People get concerned, they worry about their finances, they stop buying. Once you stop spending, then the economy goes into a tailspin. And so that's what we have to be very, very cognizant of as to whether or not it's a reality or not a reality. Obviously, you have to save and be prepared for just in case. But when people rein in spending out of fear of what might happen, then it has ramification. So, Alex Yeet, what's up? Glad to see you here. So, all right. So what I was planning on doing here, let me see here. Hang on. Let me go over to OBS. I just want to share my screen real quick. Look at that. I had the live stream with the chat. That's not the one I want to share. All right, here we go. Okay, this is the one I want to share right now. Here we go. All right, so check this out. So this was Charles Rettig. This is who Commissioner Charles Rettig of the IRS. This was sent April 11th of 2019. Dear Commissioner Rettig, let's just kind of address the top because this is why they're writing. We are writing to urge the Internal Revenue Service to issue needed guidance on the tax consequence and basic reporting requirements for taxpayers that use virtual currencies. Taxpayers deserve clarity on several basic unanswered questions regarding federal taxation of these emerging exchanges of value. Now, I find it difficult that we're going to now anticipate that the IRS is going to write law. You know, obviously they can interpret their own agenda, their own set protocols or whatever, but there's really not much. And and obviously there some forms have come out, but it's interesting. So we get into the IRS. Are they now going, they can provide some, I guess they can provide some answer, or they can give some recommendation, but this really has to go back to Congress, and that's why it was so critical that we had some changes of the IRS or the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 being addressed within the Token Taxonomy Act, because it sets the record straight and then tells the IRS that this is how you're going to act. This letter is telling the IRS at this point, you guys need to step up. We need to get some clarity out of you guys. You need to start looking at this, and you need to so that we're not having and we're not punishing individuals that are investing in this new growing space. So that's kind of the intent of the letter. At the same time, as we see them introducing this letter, they're also then proposing a bill to Congress to make the changes that they're telling the IRS that they need some clarity on. Now, when we go through this, so while we acknowledge and appreciate the guidance your agency released in 2014, there's still substantial ambiguity on a number of important questions about the federal taxation of virtual currencies. In particular, we feel there is urgent need for guidance on the following issues. So, here's their three issues. Acceptable methods for calculating the cost basis of virtual currencies. Which specific methods does the IRS consider to constitute a reasonable manner that is consistently applied as required by Notice 2014-21? And so we'd have to go back and look at that. But this is a very applicable and important question because it's not clear. Just like there's a lot of ambiguity. Acceptable methods of cost basis assignment and lot relief for virtual currencies. Do taxpayers need to use specific identification whenever they spend or exchange virtual currency, or are other methods such as first in, first out, or average cost basis acceptable as well? Now, this is really important for all of us as it stands right now. Obviously, if you're holding, you're not selling, then you're not going to see an actual realized gain or loss because you're holding. The moment you decide to sell a digital asset, it now becomes a realized gain or loss. At that point, they have to have less ambiguity, and there has to be clarity on how we're supposed to then report that as a taxable event. And so here what they're saying is, what methods can we use? What a form of identification? How are we going to now determine that we need to pay tax on that specific asset? So we could say that I bought an asset at $10 and I'm selling it at $5, but actually the first one I bought at $1, so really there's a realized gain of $4, but I want to claim the one I bought for 10 and show a loss of 5. So here there's is there some ambiguity here? Is it clear? Are we using an average cost basis Is that going to work, or is it first in, first out? At this point, I believe they're utilizing first in, first out, meaning the first digital asset we bought, whatever that value was, will be the value you use when you go to sell. So as soon as you sell, if you bought your first digital asset XRP at $1 and now it's at $5, you're selling at $5, but along the way you bought at all sorts of different values all the way up and maybe even over, you have to go back to the first one you bought and the first one you sell now, and now you have a realized gain of $4 for that individual sale of that digital asset. So there's a lot. There's still, is it clear? Is it not clear? Exactly how are we supposed to do it? Based on the Token Taxonomy Act, we should have a margin of up to $600, so that you're basically not paying tax up to a $600 realized gain, and I think that's important. Now, from a political perspective, obviously, when you get into the Token Taxonomy Act that's made up of Democrats and Republicans, obviously there's going to be a lot of pressure from one of the political parties to make sure that people pay a lot more taxes, and they don't want to provide tax relief. They want to make it more difficult, while the other side wants to create a limited form of taxation. And so there's going to be this balance when it goes through, and some argument as a result. So it's interesting and it's important. Now here, let's go to the tax treatment of forks, and this really stood out because now imagine you have Bitcoin and it forks into Bitcoin Cash that forked into whatever that other one was, BSV or whatever. Now, are those taxable events? Because now you've basically developed, or you've now taken possession of a digital asset, and you are now getting value of that digital asset. So is that a taxable event? So the tax treatment of forks for taxpayers that use virtual currencies, such as the 2017 hard fork of the Bitcoin blockchain. So these are all very, very important questions. They throw that out there and said, you know what? You guys aren't doing a good enough job. The IRS is obviously, too big as it is. Obviously we've seen, a lot of chaos, over the past number of years when it came to the IRS, politicizing the IRS, which is detrimental to everybody in the United States. That's a political perspective of it. From an economic perspective of it, is the IRS doing their job the way they need to, at the speed at which they need to? Are they providing some clarity of direction when it comes to how do people now pay taxes and identify a taxable event when it comes to digital currency? Obviously, they're not, because there's some ambiguity. And at the same time, it's important that Congress does their job and passes a specific requirement to the change of the IRS, so then it's very clear, it's black and white. The IRS will know exactly where they stand, and they'll know exactly how to then make requirements for individuals to pay their taxes. But it has to come from Congress. So, but either way, this is important. So what I want to look at here is really identifying who signed off on it. Now, today is the 15th, right? I believe, yeah, today's the 15th. So what's interesting, so look, we urge the IRS to issue more robust guidance clarifying taxpayers' obligations when using virtual currencies. In addition, we respectfully request a written response to this letter. Now, are they going to actually give a response? That's what I want to know. I want to know if the IRS, because we've seen in the recent past that the IRS decides that they're going to do what they want to do, and they're going to ignore what is required of them. So are they going to step up to the plate and actually respond to this request? Now, this is a bipartisan request, so this isn't partisan in nature. This isn't, a group of Republicans coming to the IRS and stating a fact, and the IRS, using their bully tactics to not respond and to ignore. This is a bipartisan group of congressional representatives coming up and saying you guys need to make some changes. Now, what they're requesting is they want a written response to the letter describing the IRS's efforts to issue updated virtual currency guidance, including what topics will be covered, what the timeline for release is anticipated. Please submit your written response to us by May 15th, which is today. Now, the open question is whether or not they received that written response from the IRS. Now, is the IRS in 1 month going to make and come up with something like this? Obviously, they move at a snail's pace as it is, so that is a real big open question, and we'll see if they responded. So hopefully over the next few days, we'll see an issuance of the response. Now, what I think is really telling are those individuals that signed off on this. So as we go down this list, you're going to see many of the same names over and over and over again. But before I do that, I saw some questions here. Let me jump up. Omar, you love the IRS. Maybe do you work for the IRS by any chance? They did attack the Tea Party movement. They attacked conservative movements, Rain, and they went after nonprofit organizations, and they purposely singled them out. And there's proof that they did single them out. And I know a couple organizations, individuals personally that had been actually singled out as a result. So let's see here. Miyagi, it's perspective and insight. This that makes me confident in my investment as well as my own research. That's important there. You have to do your own research. You see the changes, and obviously there's a lot of important things that are going on here. So, Carolina, appreciate that. I'm always trying to bring something interesting and important, some good insight. I try to kind of pile on to the topic that DNI set. DNI sets a really serious tone of information, and so instead even further, so I try to dig into stuff like that. So let's see here. Tune into some good stuff. It's a pro, that's for sure. I appreciate that, Rain. Appreciate all your comments. So Omar, well, I'm glad you take the time to search for this info. I really appreciate your comments, guys. That's really cool. All right, so let's go down here. Let's see. Did DNI? You're good to go. Oh, cool. You unblocked them. Man, that's awesome. I'm glad you figured it out. I'm glad you got that. Glad you got that going. So, hopefully Siri's not listening to anything. That's why no Siri, no. I don't have any of that stuff. The IRS was weaponized, as we talked about on DNI's show, and how we see the weaponization of the economies that can happen here. Rain, he says here, you were at the very first Tea Party rally back in 10. That was the start of change. It was an interesting time when we saw the when we saw the Tea Party movement rise up, and we saw a lot of politicians that really spawned off of the Tea Party, and there's still some Tea Party that's still out there. So, yep. So, all right, let me go back to this list, and then we'll go on to the next topic. But I think this list is really important, as I was saying before, because what we do see is that, oh yeah, DNI, yeah, no problem, man. Any help you need with OBS as well, you know where I am, and I'll definitely look forward to helping you out on that. So, so as we go through the signatories of this letter, again, we're going to see very similar names to all the bills. We're going to see similar names to those who signed on to the Token Taxonomy Act and who have signed on to bills so far in 19 as well as in 2018. Tom Emmer Again, he's the initiator of this bill. But we have Tom Emmer, Bill Foster, David Schweikert, Darren Soto, who we all know and he's sponsored multiple bills. Patrick McHenry, James McGovern, French Hill. French Hill is working with Stephen Lynch as part of the FinTech task force, as part of the Financial Services Committee. They're heading it up. Warren Davidson, we all know that name. Terry Sewell, Eric Swalwell, Ted Budd. Ted Budd showed up in 2018 on multiple bills. Trey Hollingsworth, Ed Perlmutter, Josh Gottheimer. Gottheimer, he's the one we were talking about as really the only candidate that could become the second for Token Taxonomy Act. Obviously, Darren Soto has done a phenomenal job, but Darren Soto doesn't sit on the Financial Services Committee, whereas Gottheimer does. And as a Democrat, to be a second for Warren Davidson is going to be critical to move it through the FSC as per Maxine Waters' requirements. So, and then we have Greg Gianforte, Mark Meadows, Lance Gooden, Ted Yoho, and then we've got Matt Gates and Brian Steele. So this is really impressive. This is definitely bipartisan in nature. You can see both Republicans and Democrats that understand the dynamics of digital assets. So what I'm going to do is put a link to this in the description. You guys can grab this as we do our outreach. And as we start building the momentum for this outreach, and we start putting together some more videos, really targeted videos that we'll then be able to take and tweet out to all the individual congressional representatives, either thanking them individually for, hey, you've done a phenomenal job, but I wanted to share this video with you. I think it could help you, help educate other congressional representatives on why they should support you for your digital asset initiative, for Token Taxonomy Act, for Tom Emmer. We're going to have to reach out and try to support him on the initiative that he's putting out, because again, if his focus for his initiative, for his bill, is going to emphasize the IRS, that kind of takes a little snippet from the Token Taxonomy Act that is now going to have to be removed. And obviously they can build on this, so they can submit additional bills. Once they can get one bill through, then they pile on and they get more bills through, and we can start seeing some major progress with this initiative. So I think that's all really telling, really important that we see some movement here. So let's see here. Let's go up. Let's see here. Rain, most of the Tea Party was absorbed by politics, and then Trump came. That's right. Obviously, we did see that happen. We saw a lot of that in the state of Florida. So let's see. I appreciate that, DNI. Any thumbs up you guys can give, any tweeting out that you guys can do, would be definitely appreciated. Let's see what we got here. Yeah. Okay. Brad, the Shermanator. Man, the Shermanator's he's afraid to put his signature on anything positive. That guy doesn't know one thing about economics, that's for sure. I don't know how that guy keeps getting reelected. It's time for him to go. The guy's been in since 1997, and he's been in different districts. How do you spend that much time in Congress not knowing anything and always having negative feedback? The guy doesn't do anything. You get a lot of these lifers in Congress that's all they do. They spend all their time, building up to get into Congress. They do nothing and they get paid. They get paid big too. It's like $170,000, $180,000 a year. I think once they're in, depending on the number of terms they're in, their pension is somehow tailored to that. But at some point, and I think that it's maybe after the second term, so maybe they're in for 4 years, they get 100% of for life basically, and it's just crazy. It's just really, really absurd. So yeah, definitely, like Omar's saying there, they definitely need some regulation, and hopefully we'll get some changes coming here pretty quick. So that was really one of the more important topics, and that went to the IRS Commissioner Rettig. And I feel that the IRS, again, they're not doing enough. Congress hasn't been able to do enough. But it's the grassroots. It's everything we can do. We see the congressional representatives doing it, and we need to take some lesson from that and say, okay, we're here to help, and we're going to reach out and make sure that we help you make the changes that are required, that are in our interest and are to our benefit. So here's something else that I thought was really interesting. We talk about banking adoption. So there's a lot of large financial services, large banks out there that as of recently, they're hitting the airwaves as adding digital asset. So hey, Jeff Rome, what's up? Glad to see you in. Yeah, Tina, term limits. Term limits would be really important. I think that would be great. If they go to jail, I don't know if they still get paid. I'm not sure if they lose, but I think it's very difficult for them to lose. So I'm not 100% sure if they lose their pension if they go to jail. That's a really good question. But term limits would be nice. There's obviously a lot of amazing changes. It's the only job in the world where you can vote on your own pay raise, and then your employers don't have a say in the matter. And they get to make decisions on whether or not they have to be held accountable to the same standards as the people are based on the rules that they vote on. One of the biggest issues that I see overall, and I can't remember if I'm trying to remember who I had this conversation with, but has to do with insider trading. So a sitting congressional representative cannot be held liable for insider trading. So this is where we have, and this is just one little snippet of the benefit that these guys get when they get into Congress. So imagine insider trading. Why is it that you have lifers in Congress that come out of Congress that are making $180,000 a year have to manage two households? So they need to have a house in their state of residence, and they have to have an apartment or a house in DC. Now these individuals, again, making $175,000 to $180,000 a year, managing two properties, one in a very expensive zip code, which is in the DC area, but somehow these guys leave Congress. When they leave Congress, if they ever leave Congress, maybe they don't leave Congress, but they all become multimillionaires. So in what world, do you work like that and you get to circumvent the laws and enrich yourself? And that's where it becomes very, very problematic from a political perspective, where we have our representatives that are too worried about their own re-election due to their own financial enrichment goals. So, and I think we even see that, look at AOC. Something came out with her that she's, planning a movie deal or a book deal or whatever it might be. It's such a sham because there's certain laws that will dictate how much you can contribute to a campaign, but yet they can circumvent those rules if that individual politician representative writes a book or something like that. So if we look at like Obama, before Obama, when he was running for office, he was virtually nobody. He was a state senator, then a sitting senator. The guy had zero track record. Nobody knew who he was. All of a sudden, the guy has a $1 million plus book deal. We saw this, over and over. Hillary Clinton, had this book deal. AOC has like some, big media campaign, book deal or movie deal or some aspiration that's going to come out of the woodworks. They're all hypocrites, though. So here they are, preaching to us. And yet, they're over there enriching themselves. And that's really the most difficult part of it all. So at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to hold them accountable. The only way we can hold them accountable is call them, show up at their office, and make sure that we're informed as to what they're doing, trying to get engaged at some level. And then, obviously, in the voting booth, and that's important. If we don't like what they're doing, too many people become apathetic, thinking that we can't have an impact on the outcome of anything that have to do with politics. What we're seeing right now, from the digital asset perspective, and and the blockchain and this ramp up, whether it's with this letter we just read with Tom Emmer and his bills, or the Token Taxonomy Act, or else or otherwise, our contribution can have a significant change in the outcome. And the same goes for these individuals that are sitting in Congress right now. So, hang on. I made a mistake and turned on the dehumidifier right before I started. So, all right, That's kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent on this one. So let me see here. Let me go up. Trump is draining the swamp. AOC, what? The gift that keeps on giving. Paul Ryan was a dirtbag. I like watching these backwards too. Let's see here. She was put there. She auditioned. I agree with that. Yep. So not to get too political, but I like Jeff Rome's statement here. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. We got to get them out. You can't have them there forever. You got to hold them accountable. You got to call them. You got to email them. You got to talk to them. They can't keep us out of their agenda. So it just doesn't work that way. So all right, let me go back here. So as we talk about these large entities, right? So we talked about E-Trade. We've talked about Fidelity. Obviously, J.P. Morgan. The list goes on and on and on of those entities that are getting into the digital asset blockchain space. It's a given that all banks and all financial institutions will move into blockchain, will move into digital asset, and it's just a matter of time. But this came out yesterday, and this is financial service giant BNY Mellon appoints a new head of blockchain. So what's significant about this is that obviously if they these financial institutions, these banks, they're not going to hire individuals to build out programs in blockchain or digital asset if the banks don't have an intent on developing into that space, however it might look. So that is really, kind of an important acknowledgement. And beyond that, as we really focus in, and we want to really identify the acceptance by these banks, the acceptance by the governments even, to provide some sort of clarity on this space, whether they're not providing it or not. I think one of the other telling signs is the fact that Coinbase, that XRP is now available and listed on Coinbase for purchase by residents of New York. So that is probably bears a huge amount of significance. New York is probably one of the strictest states in terms of regulation, to where they, to where they'll actually, push or postpone, delay, or not allow altogether the development within the financial space. And to me, their regulation, their licensing requirements, their bit license, all it has to do with is control and money. That's really all, all it is at the end of the day. But they're really good at that. So the fact that New York has now accepted it is really, to me, it's a good thing, and it's a sign of amazing things to come in relation to what we're seeing within this space. So let's see here. I'm trying to get out of the politics of it, but I'm just going back and looking at some of the comments. So once the financial institutions are in place, let's see here. Wildstar, how you doing? Good to see you on, man. And Wildstar too. I didn't see you when you came in. Glad to see you guys on. Glad to see everybody on. Actually, we've got a pretty decent turnout tonight. Let's see here. It's going back up here. Let's see here. All right. There's a lot of great stuff here. So anyhow, all right. Let me go back and check. Make a last check over here. All right. Where are we? Nope. No changes. I thought we'd have some positive change here on XRP during the conversation. We're still at 46 cents. Bitcoin Cash is up to 437. Litecoin, man, it's so impressive when you look at this space. And I've avoided looking at the coin market caps and all these changes for the longest time. I remember when I first got into digital assets, I would invest. I was checking it probably, hourly is probably, being a little conservative. I swear I would check it constantly, take it out. Okay, where is it now? All right, what's the change now? What's the change now? And then you just have to make a decision, say, you know what, when you're investing long term, just put it away. Don't worry about it. If your strategy is out there somewhere, you can check it once a week. It's not gonna make any big change. Nothing's gonna change if you're checking it every hour or once a week, if you're planning on holding it for a couple years. So Zebio 305, what's up? So all right, now overall, what I wanted to look at here, not there, but all right. I think that, I kind of went through what I wanted to talk about. My primary focus was this one article that one letter written to the IRS. I thought that was so critical to get out there. So, yeah, portfolio in the green, money bags. That's good to see, isn't it? It's good to see portfolio in the green, and it's good to see every one of these digital assets, in the green as well as we look down the list. So from Florida, 305, Miami. Awesome. Looks like Miami, Chip. Let's see, Zebio, are you down in Miami? Where are you at? We are going to host an XRP meetup at the Crypto Cafe in West Palm Beach. Should we call it the Bitcoin Maximalist Cryptocurrency Cafe in Palm Beach? I'm not sure exactly where it is. Chip was over there though. Chip, where was the cafe? Now we got to if we have a meetup, then XRP can definitely moon at that point. You know what we need to do though, Zebio, if you check out XRP Minutes video, you know, if you check out his video, you'll see, I don't know, you might have already seen it, but he was in this cafe, and when he was asking him about XRP, the guy said, oh, here, I'll show you, you know, what we do with XRP. Led him over to the wall, and there was a garbage can. It said, your XRP wallet's in here. But he didn't say XRP wallets. On the wall, it said Ripple wallets. So obviously they were, you know, behind the times a little bit. Bitcoin, 9 transactions a second. It's up to 53,500 confirmed transaction. What a great technology. Huh. Santa Monica. You know what we need to do? We're on opposite coasts. So we'll have to have a meetup, and we'll have to invite the California guys to Florida, and then the Florida guys will go to California. That would be pretty cool. We need to have one major meetup somewhere, though. Get that planned. Thailand might be a little bit too far away. But we'll have to do, if we have a meetup, we have to figure out a way to where we can stream the meetups, and then, you know, get group participation up on a large screen. So it's not just on a small screen, but we can get, you know, if you get multiple meetups at the same time on the same day, that, you know, obviously there's a time difference, but if we could figure it out and we get the group in there with the large screens and the cameras, and then we could have a major meetup, that would be pretty sweet. So, all right. So anyhow, guys, I've kind of covered everything that I wanted to talk about, and you guys are obviously, you know, really appreciate everybody. Appreciate everybody for coming on, taking your time out on a Wednesday evening here, coming up to 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So really appreciate all you guys. Appreciate your comments. Really amazing. Miyagi here. I wonder how many clients out of the 200 plus on RippleNet will leverage XRP once clarity is set. I'm wondering, we're starting to see the sign of the times where maybe they're going to bypass regardless of regulatory clarity. We'll start seeing the embracing of XRapid, given the fact that New York gave Coinbase the green light to list XRP and allow New York residents to buy XRP. That kind of that's a sign. So, you know, who knows? But anyhow, guys, this is awesome. I look forward to the chat we'll have on Saturday. I'm going to be traveling, so hopefully I'll be able to stream Saturday morning. I'll do it on location from where I'm going to be. Friday night, I'm actually meeting up with Mr. B. Mosquito just flew by. On Friday night, I'm meeting up with Mr. B and Sergeant Obi-Wan. So we're going out to dinner on Friday night. That's going to be absolutely awesome. Looking forward to that. And then Saturday morning, looking forward to hopefully, you know, being able to stream without any issue. If there is, then I won't be on Saturday, but I will then be back on. If I can't do Saturday morning for whatever reason, if the internet's bad or, you know, I can't stream from my phone or whatever the issue might be, I'll try to throw a stream up on Sunday. I'll throw out a notifier. I'll obviously be up on Monday. Tomorrow night, Thursday night, Steve and Chip at 10 o'clock. And then make sure, as always, DNI at 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. So it's an awesome group. Obviously, we've got some amazing discussion. Looking forward to DNI and Chip's streams tomorrow night. Let's see here. I'll be driving. I'll be driving in the afternoon. But Stephen, Aiden Trading is streaming live in a few minutes, 8 p.m. at 11 p.m. He's going to be talking about the bearable guy bear. I saw him. He had a little stuffed animal bear, which was Tina. True, I really appreciate that. That's awesome. All right, guys, I'll check you out. If Chip was here, I'd have Chip do the outtake. I love that. But anyhow, from my side, again, appreciate everybody. And until next time, keep on hodling your crypto.